to our committee of the whole for Wednesday, December 13th, 2023. I welcome our staff, council, and those who are watching online. I'll call the meeting to order. We acknowledge the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Would you call the roll call, Shelley, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Mayor Scott.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Gilroy.
Present.
Councillor Gould.
Present.
Councillor Hotelli. Councillor Redmond. Councillor McCormick.
Present.
She is joining us virtually. Councillor Joseph.
Present.
Councillor Porter.
Present.
And Councillor Goodwin. All present, Your Worship.
Thank you, Shelley. That brings us down to number 2 on our administrative and procedural issues. 2.1, approval of the agenda. So everyone would have a copy of the agenda, and I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please. Moved by Councillor Redmond, seconded by Councillor Hotelli. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. 2.2, approval of the minutes. So the minutes, recommended motion is that the minutes of the November 15th, 2023 regular committee of the whole meeting be approved as presented. Ask for motion, please. Moved by Councillor Joseph, second by Councillor Porter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded. Oh, sorry. Councillor Hotelli. Point 3. Yeah, but this is a. So who actually moved that then, Sean? 4.3. Request to present. That one says was moved by Councillor Hotelli. The staff sent a letter.
Yes.
You didn't move that motion then? No. So
I suggest that then that we defer approval of these minutes. We'll go back and watch the video and get it right. Okay.
everybody agreed? Great. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hotelli, for noticing that. 2.3, business rising, Mr. Harrod.
Thank you, Your Worship. Business arising from, excuse me, Committee of the Whole is in 2 sections, and then they're on page 9 and 10 of Council's agenda package. As always the case, the first is the most recent Committee of the Whole meeting. Pleased to say that all items are complete. A number of them are just simply procedural and moving things forward. The letter was sent to the concerned citizens group about glyphosate burial spraying, and a letter of concern to Scotiabank regarding pending closure of the Pugwash branch has also been sent. I'll pause there and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Harrod regards to his report to this point? Seeing none, carry on, sir.
Thank you. Page 10 is the ongoing items. Jurisdictional review of bylaw enforcement policies. We have that on today's agenda. We don't have a draft policy. We want to have a discussion with council about what we found in the jurisdictional scan first and then craft the policy. And the surplus municipal property strategy is with Director Boone, who's off on sick leave, but I do know that the RFP is just about ready to go. And I think when he returns to work, we'll be ready to send it. So happy to answer any questions there.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from Mr. Harrod regards to his report? Seeing none. Thank you. That brings us down to the 2.4. There were no public hearings or presentations today. Organizational policy bylaw items 3.1. Water leak adjustment policy. Ms. Hurdle, or Director of Finance, I believe, is going to speak to this. Amy?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is coming about, we have had a couple instances where residents' water bills, now that we're moving more towards metered, are increasing significantly from one period to the next due to a leak, an unknown leak on the property. And so we did a little bit of research and found that Truro actually has a water leak adjustment policy very similar to this. And we kind of tweaked it for our municipality based on our water utility. And we're bringing this to council to recommend, or to Cal, I guess, to recommend that this be reviewed and considered to be forwarded to the council meeting. The policy is attached. I'm not going to read it word for word, but essentially what it allows is a one-time adjustment per property, unless it changes hands, of a water leak on the property that the owner was not aware of. And basically, because it's a water utility, we can't write it off, but the municipality would agree to pay that to the water utility, and we would do a one-time adjustment for the property. There is an application process. It has to be basically approved by Director of Public Works, the Director of Finance, and ultimately the CAO before it would be permitted. There's timelines outlined in the policy. It outlines how it would be addressed for existing metered customers as well as new metered customers that are just coming on the utility, as well as brand new ones that haven't even come on yet. So the town of Spring Hill, the former town of Spring Hill, essentially. So that is kind of the Coles Notes version of it. And if there are any questions, I would entertain them.
Thank you. All right, so the recommended motion is that council forward approval of the water leak adjustment policy to the December 20th, 2023 regular council meeting. Someone like to make that motion, please? Moved by Councillor Joseph, second by Councillor Goodwin. Questions or comments for Ally? Councillor Gould, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, you say water leak on the property. I have no problem with the policy, but the water leak on the property, so you're meaning in the house and,
Yeah,
yeah, so
essentially.
like a running
A running
toilet
toilet.
or something
yeah.
along that line. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Behind the meter.
Behind, yeah,
Yeah.
Behind the meter.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it'd have to be like, it wouldn't be in their yard
Right.
because it's not metered yet.
Right.
That's what, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. Any other questions or comments for Ally? Seeing none, call with question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aren't you minded nay? Motion is carried. Thank you, Ally.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Amy, say Ally. Sorry, Amy.
I think that's the second time.
Is it? I'm allowed one more? 3 times you wrote?
Yeah.
3.2, bylaw to establish and regulate the fire departments in the municipality of Cumberland. Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation before council is that the bylaw to establish and regulate fire departments be forwarded to the December 2023 regular council meeting for first reading. By way of background, these bylaws originated from the creation of an ad hoc committee to review the fire service review, which was conducted last year or presented to council last year. A preliminary report of the working of the ad hoc committee was presented to council in September of this year, or September 2022, sorry. Or no, that should be 2023, which at the time updated council as to the recommendations of the committee to that point. These bylaws envision the creation of 2 full-time equivalent positions, a manager of fire services and an administrator. These positions have been budgeted for the last quarter of 2023, 2024 in the amount of $40,000, which prorated over the next, the subsequent or the full year would be sufficient for those positions. The bylaws, draft bylaws themselves start at page 20 of the package, Your Worship. And I'm not again going to go through line by line, but what my intention is to highlight some of the more pertinent aspects of the bylaws. You know, these bylaws came about as a result of the workings of the Fire Review Committee, which comprised members of council, and the representatives of the 4 hub fire stations, and are intended to reflect an implementation of the recommendations of the Goudreau report as modified by this committee's hub model. So on page 21, the first highlight I'd like to bring to council's attention is the definition of fire chief in section 1G. And there are 7 qualifications that are listed in that section for a fire chief, which include having attained a minimum level 1 qualification, 5 years of experience, incident command system 100 and 200, managing company tactical operations training, fire and investigation training, safety scene officer training, and will become an assistant to the fire marshal after election or appointment if they're not already an assistant to the fire marshal. The next definition, which is pertinent, Your Worship, is the definition of fire protection services, which includes fire suppression, rescue, and emergency services, among other things. So emergency services, which, as we've seen from the numerous monthly reports for this department, occupies a considerable amount of the time of our fire departments. Approximately 66% of the callouts of our fire departments are MVAs and medical calls. There's also in sub K a definition of limited service, which is pertinent given the fact that all of our fire departments are staffed by volunteers, and limited resources may be available given the number of volunteers that can respond at a certain time, or multiple calls at the same time, weather conditions, road conditions, access issues. The support hub fire stations are defined in subsection S, which is one of the 4 stations that have been designated by council to provide fire protection services and serve as logistical centers for the local fire departments. The next section, Your Worship, that I'd like to bring to your council's attention is registration. This follows on the registration policy that was approved by council earlier in the year, and follows section 294 of the Municipal Government Act, which provides for the necessity that fire protection services be registered under with the municipality under the Municipal Government Act. And no one can be approved as for registration if they provide the same services as another existing fire department. Under structure, paragraph 6, the manager of fire services reports to the director of protective services, and that manager of fire services is appointed by the CAO. In section 9, the appointment of a support hub fire chief to each of the support hub stations is subject to ratification by council. In section 11, it's and this is an important point. The fire departments maintain the independent authority to carry out departmental operations and deliver approved fire protection services. And then if we jump over to page 25, there's a code of conduct section, which provides that all members of fire departments shall be of good character and shall conduct themselves with decorum when on duty and be courteous and respectful when dealing with the public, not engage in any activity that's illegal or might reasonably be expected to bring their fire department into disrepute, and not engage in any activity while on duty that can be reasonably be expected to tarnish, impair, or otherwise negatively impact the reputation of the fire service in the municipality. So in section 19, under discipline of members, any member who breaches the code of conduct is subject to disciplinary action up to and including dismissal or discharge, sorry. in accordance with the procedures of that department, in the absence of any procedures by the fire chief of that department. In the case of a fire chief who has breached the code of conduct or fails to fulfill the duties of the office, disciplinary action shall be by council upon the recommendation of the Director of Protective Services and the CAO. Section 21 provides for recovery of costs in relation to circumstances where a fire department calls in machinery or other services to assist in a fire. And those are the highlights, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. So the recommended motion is that the bylaw to establish and regulate fire departments be forward to the December 20th, 2023 regular council meeting for first reading. So I'd like to make that motion, please. Moved by Councilor Redmond, second by Councilor Gould. Questions, comments for Mr. Cole? Seeing none, Al, Deputy Mayor Gilroy, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under G, the definition of fire chief, excuse me. All of our chiefs currently are above the standard or have met this standard, or we have some that are still trying to obtain it.
All of our chiefs are level 1 qualified, not certified. And that's why the wording is become or encouraged to become level 1 certified. Not all chiefs have ICS 200 or 100, in fact, which is something that they can obtain quite easily. I've done those courses myself.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gilroy. Al, just the in regards to so you mentioned about the committee. So there were the four hub chiefs who were on our committee, or deputies were on our committee. And then you met subsequent to that, you met with the chiefs and the departments in regards to these bylaws, correct?
Yes, I met
So I wonder what the
with
feedback.
not all fire departments were represented at the meeting that was called for all chiefs who wanted to attend, but it was very well attended by all except 2 departments, I believe. And we reviewed the work of the committee up to that point and took input from the rest of the fire departments and then made further modifications to the draft bylaws as a result of that meeting.
Great, thank you. No other questions or comments? Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion is carried. Alice, on behalf of council, I want to thank you very much. This has been a lot of work the last year and a half since this committee was formed and to get us to this point. So I think you and staff deserve a lot of credit. So thank you very much for this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Business issues number 4.1, request to waive ice rental fees. Mr. McCracken, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we've had a request from the Truro under 13 AAA Bearcats requesting ice rental fees be waived at the Richard Calder Arena, Spring Hill, for an upcoming provincial tournament. Our policy sets out the fees for particular uses. And it does waive fees for particular groups within Cumberland County, such as minor hockey and skating, if there's skating groups and tournaments of that such. But there's no provisions for, or there's no exceptions within the policy around tournaments from groups outside of Cumberland County, essentially. So the request is coming to council for consideration as a special consideration to the policy. So the AAA Bearcats draw players as well from Cumberland County. So there's currently 7 players and 1 coach from Cumberland County playing on the team. As you may know, there's been some ice availability issues in Truro with their Colchester Legion Stadium being shut down due to the damage it incurred due to Fiona. So they're still working through that. So it's at a premium in Truro. So they reached out to us to see if we'd be willing to provide some space. Per the ice allocation policy, as I mentioned, we charge an hourly ice rental rate That's outlined in the policy and in the CDR. And exceptions to the ice rental fees are outlined in the policy, but only organizations within Cumberland County as mentioned. That said, the policy allows council to set the fees at their discretion as requests are advanced for consideration. There'd be approximately 20 games or 30 hours of ice time needed for the tournament. If we were to charge our regular rates, we'd get between $3,400 and $4,000, depending on the dates and timing of rentals. However, if we charge fees, it could impact their decision whether or not to come to Spring Hill and host it. They could look for another location such as the Amherst Stadium or somewhere else. So there's some alternatives listed in your package and a recommended motion as well. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, sir. So the recommended motion is that council forward the request to waive ice rental fees for the under 13 AAA Truro Bearcats provincial tournament bid to the December 20th, 2023 regular council meeting. Someone like to make that motion, please. Moved by Councilor McCormick, second by Councilor Joseph. Questions or comments for Mr. McCracken? Councilor Joseph.
Thank you, your worship. More or less as a comment. So this tournament here, and you look at the dates, but hopefully the weather subsides. Not only do a hockey team, players bring just the mother and father, they bring everybody. It's a provincial tournament. So I think this would be a good time too, if it pushes through. Not only are they going to come to Spring Hill, they also want to visit Pugwash, Amherst, Pursboro, surrounding areas as a marketing tools, as part of a brochure, right? To get these families out and about within Cumberland County, right? And kind of spread the money per se, right? And boost up our tourism. Thank you, your worship.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. 4.2 in the works, Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, your worship. Excuse me. In October, council received a presentation from In the Works, social enterprise in Cumberland County. At the time, they were seeking $45,000 to support the creation of a new executive director position and have made a similar request to the town of Amherst. Our CAO has been in discussion with the CAO of town of Amherst, who indicated they will be including the request in their operating budget deliberations for 2024-25. Unless otherwise directed by council, municipal staff are recommending we do the same and include the request for funding from In the Works to the upcoming operating budget deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was for information, for council's information. Thank you, Mr. McCracken. Any questions for Mr. McCracken in regards to that agenda item? Seeing none, thank you. 4.3, dangerous or unsightly policy comparative review. Mr. Cole, Director of Protective Services.
Thank you, your worship. Your worship, in May, council passed a motion requesting staff to undertake a jurisdictional review of bylaw enforcement policies, including dangerous or unsightly properties, and provide a draft policy review. This brief to council is in relation to the dangerous or unsightly policies. The starting point for this discussion is well, dangerous and unsightly, let me back up, your worship, is part 15 of the Municipal Government Act. And section 344 says that every property in the municipality shall be maintained so as not to be dangerous or unsightly. So that's the base standard. The actual definitions of dangerous or unsightly are in section 3, subsection R, and sub V of the Municipal Government Act. We reviewed 7 different towns and municipalities for the purposes of this jurisdictional scan. We did look at other municipalities outside the province, but the municipal structure in other provinces is different enough that we ended up restricting the review to Nova Scotia. There are a number of common themes that exist in pretty much every policy and procedure that was reviewed. The first of which is the delegation of authority. Every jurisdiction reviewed delegated the authority under the Municipal Government Act, or council delegated its authority under the Municipal Government Act to an administrator, except for the authority to order demolition, which council's not at liberty to do under the act. So council retains the sole authority in conjunction with a court order to order demolition. The other aspects of enforcement fall to the administrator. Most jurisdictions have a policy or procedure that limit investigations by the administrator to properties that are the subject of a complaint. It's extremely rare for a policy to be in place where the administrator is looking for dangerous or unsightly properties. It's almost always complaint driven, which our procedure is complaint driven. Most jurisdictions provide for a complaint to be filed by a resident or ratepayer or taxpayer. There was one jurisdiction that did not allow for complaints to be filed by councillors. In other jurisdictions, councillors were permitted to file complaints, which is an issue that we'll get back to later. In our procedure, a complaint must be filed by a resident or taxpayer. Unless there's an imminent danger, that's the exception to having a complaint. In the case of an imminent danger to health or public safety, the administrator can act independently. And that's only happened once since I've been in that role. So after a complaint, the common theme is that contact be made with the homeowner and or resident, either by speaking to them in person or by mail. The act provides for mail or posting to the property or on the property. Typically then, if a recommended remediation is not completed within the time frame set out in the correspondence, then the administrator can act under the Municipal Government Act to force compliance by issuing an order. The property owner can appeal the orders of both the administrator and council. And there are provisions in section 346 of the act for those appeals. And our policy or procedures that we have in place now follow that same scheme. The existing Cumberland or municipality policy is on page 41 of the council package. And it's quite brief. All that policy does is delegate council's authority to the administrator, except for the authority to order demolition. The proposed policy that we've put together is much more substantive. And Appendix B, which is at page 42, is a flow chart of what happens to a complaint once received. And Your Worship, you'll see that complaint received, file opened, then an investigation. Then there's two streams. It's not dangerous or it's not unsightly. Files closed, update the complainant and close the file. If it is dangerous or unsightly, then there's two other streams, which are immediate action required or not immediate action required. And then we go through the notification of the property owner and resident, notifying them of the required action to remediate the situation. If the owner complies, then the file is closed. If they do not comply, then we either issue an order or seek an order from council. The owner either complies with the order, again, file closed, or does not comply, and then we engage a contractor or on occasion our own forces through Public Works to complete the work contained in the order, and then the file's closed. So that's kind of a high-level overview, Your Worship, of how things work across all the municipalities that we reviewed and how our procedures work in this municipality.
Again, thank you, Mr. Cole. Obviously, a lot of work put in this. Any questions for Al, even though there's not a motion per se today? Any questions for Al in regards to his work so far? I just had one, Al. So how many, I'm looking at your flow chart and looking at the different steps. How many opportunities are there for a property owner to appeal any decision we make right from the start to end?
Well, they can appeal in order. So effectively, there's one chance to appeal,
Okay.
and that's when an order's been issued, either by council or the administrator.
So just
Or
one-
a court.
once. Yeah. Thank you. Very good, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your work again, what you're doing.
Our intention, Your Worship, before Al maybe leaves, is to was based on the robust conversation that we have having with council from that review, we have drafted a policy that we'll bring to the next meeting. So we were hoping that if there was anything that popped out of that conversation today, we'd consider that in tweaking the draft. So we'll take the fact that there's not a whole lot of suggestions for improvement, that we'll bring the next draft forward and
And it's an excellent draft.
see how
It is.
it is an excellent draft. Yeah.
The author. Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you. 4.4, funding request, Spring Hill Ground Search and Rescue, Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, Worship. The Spring Hill Ground Search and Rescue is hoping to replace an aging command vehicle, as well as adding a transport vehicle to their fleet. There's a accompanying letter sent by the organization, had more details in it, and they're seeking $10,000 of support from council. Council has supported similar requests from the Pugwash Ground Search and Rescue as part of our grants to organizations process back in the spring, the winter spring, I guess. And the grants to organizations deadline, of course, is passed for this fiscal year. Any recommended funding by council is being recommended to be allocated from operating reserves. And if approved, $10,000 would come from those reserves. Council may recommend a different amount, or council may defer this to the operating budget deliberations in the new year. And there's a recommended motion in your package.
Thank you, sir. So the recommended motion is that council forward the funding request for $10,000 from the Spring Hill Ground Search and Rescue to the December 2023 regular council meeting for approval. Someone like to make that motion, please? Moved by Councilor Joseph, second by Councilor McCormick. Questions or comments for Mr. McCracken? Councilor Joseph.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's more or less a comment. The vehicle stated they already have right now, it's in dire straits, and I don't think it could haul a utility trailer without breaking down. They've been responding to a lot of calls in the past, same as Pugwash, in conjunction with them, working as a team. But it'd be nice for our group to show up there all intact instead of being broken down the side of the road. So I am going to support this, and hopefully pushing through. I mean, they need this volunteers that do dedicate their time and effort. And there's a lot of great men and women who work in that organization. I haven't met the organization in Pugwash, but probably the same too. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. McCracken. 5, external reports from committee minutes. 5.1, Cumberland Food Security Summits update. Councilor Hoteling, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's just a information item on the work on the strategic plan for the Poverty Reduction Advisory Committee. So we are having food security summits throughout Cumberland County in 5 different locations, including Amherst and Oxford. Pugwash, Spring Hill and Parsboro. And if you are interested in attending, or if you have any connections to organizations in any of those communities or surrounding areas that has work to do with food security, it would be great if you could email Victoria. Her email is at the bottom of the page, and just let her know any contacts that might want to attend, or collecting data, and also trying to set up community food networks in the communities so that they can understand what each other are doing and hopefully work together more on food security related issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Telling. Any questions for Councilor Telling in regards to report? I have one. So are the 5 locations, those are set? Is there any opportunity to expand that, or is that the 5, that's it?
We have the main organizer, Victoria, is contracted until the end of March. So we decided to do those ones, and because it's winter, we put a storm date on each one. So there's 2 weeks for each event. So if she was to get an extension on her contract, we would look at trying to do other communities, but just the way that the schedule is working, that's what we can fit in. So ideally, we would love to go to other communities, but she's only for sure going to be there till March.
Thank you, Councilor Telling. That brings us down to number 6, internal updates, reports, committee minutes. 6.1, administration department monthly report. Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, Your Worship. So within your administration,
Might as well stay right there. We're just saying maybe you just stay there and.
yeah, sure. The administration department report contains some of the usual information you'll find in the report. Of course, there's your district grants with the remaining budgets as of December 1st. Our customer service statistics for the month and past 30 days. Of course, building development permits outshine most other categories as usual. In terms of human resources and safety, we're working hard to fill a number of key positions, such as the community engagement coordinator, the supervisor of IT services, finance administration clerk, bylaw enforcement officer, and other positions. So we're making a lot of great headway with those positions. So we're excited to welcome some new people aboard in the new year, hopefully. Position description or job descriptions, we're reviewing those, making them consistent and accurate with what people are doing. We begin our bargaining with CUPE on December 18th, on Monday. So our lead negotiator has met with our CAO, myself, and Director of Public Works to create our first proposal to present to the union on the 18th. We've also retained the Safety Services Nova Scotia to conduct a gap assessment to define the opportunities and needs for safety improvements within the organization. This include candid interviews with staff and the leadership team, and this focus sort of understand what our needs are and create a framework for improving our safety throughout the organization after that. Communications continues to be busy with lots of work that our communications officer is doing with his news briefs, employee profiles. We have as part of the Municipal Awareness Week, we have our new newsletter out. Lots of out and about. We call it dareling is a verb that we're using now. He's out and about and taking photos and writing stories and all kinds of things across the county. So doing a great job. And just to remind you probably don't need a reminder, the election is coming next year, and we've struck a small committee to led by Shelley to start creating a plan for the election in 2024. In the coming weeks, council will be asked to decide on preferred method of voting. If you recall, last time it was a hybrid model, so we'll be coming with options for you to consider next month. Your Worship.
McCracken regards his report. What'd you say, Mr. Hare?
Lost your words.
I thought there was more coming. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
6.2, Development and Planning Department Monthly Report. Mr. Boone, who is out on sick leave. I think Mr. Harret's going to give his report. If you're ready.
Actually, your worship.
You're deep in thought.
Actually, your worship, I don't believe there's a report there.
No, the agenda states that it'll be presented in January.
What I can say is that Director Boone's off on medical leave and sends his regrets and is convalescing at home, and he's beginning to work a bit remotely, so that's great. We're happy for him. What he did ask me to share with council was that building permits and activity are strong again this year. And as a matter of fact, at this point in time in this year, we're already ahead of last year, which was a record year with December to come. So he'll present all the details and highlights of that and with his January report, but I think that's a pertinent piece of information to share. So, your worship.
Thank you. 6.3, Facilities Monthly Report. Mr. Cole, Director of Protective Services. You have permanent seating up here, Mr. Cole.
Thank you, your worship. This report is fairly short, your worship, and basically just wanted to highlight some of the activities that are ongoing or nearing completion. The first is Cape Door, the new washroom facility in the upper parking lot. There's a couple of photographs of it there. It was 95% complete. There's a new vehicle on its way for the facilities coordinator who puts on hundreds of kilometers every month going to the various facilities in the municipality. That's expected to arrive in January. The Harsborough Library had some issues regarding vandalism and also a minor flood in the basement due to a broken water pipe. The facilities coordinator installed a security camera and fixed the pipe and replaced some drywall in the basement there. The Don York ballpark dugouts and concession stand have been boarded up for the winter. And the Harsborough dog fence, new fence, is now complete and installed. The old River Hibbert school has been boarded up to prevent further vandalism. And the new pathway to the beach at the Joggins Fossil Center has also been completed.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Cole in regards to his report? Councillor Porter, please.
Thank you, your worship. One question in relation to the old River Hibbert Elementary School. Just wondering how close we are to actually selling it. I know someone put a bid in on it last year and there's some.
So we're happy to provide an in-camera briefing after the meeting, if you like.
Yeah, thank you.
We can do it that way. I think it's appropriate to do that.
Okay.
In-camera.
Okay, Councillor Porter.
That's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Cole? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Appreciate your work.
Thank you, your worship.
6.4, Finance Department Monthly Report. Amy Hertman, Director.
Thank you, your worship. The finance department has been busy and will continue to be in the near future. So as you all know, the audited financial statements were approved at the November 29th special meeting, which was exciting. With the completion of the audit, finance staff are turning their attention to the budget for 24-25. Payroll numbers are being prepared to kind of get the budget ready for directors to take a look at it. And directors are working on getting their potential capital projects and strategic priorities ready. All bank account reconciliations for the month of November are complete. SAP does some annual testing and finance staff completed that by working on Saturday, November 25th. Staff are working on the financial reports for the second quarter ending September 30th. Once those are complete, we will have an audit committee meeting and present those to council. As many of you are probably aware by now, Kevin Kip York retired from working at the Harsborough Service Center in October. Kip had been working first with the former town of Parsboro and then with the municipality for a continued total of 39 years. He was a great asset to the finance team and his dedication to the municipality was appreciated. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention at today's meeting. The junior accountant position that we have has been assisting supervisors and directors with analyzing accounts and clarifying where expenses should be reported. She recently had an in-person meeting with one of our supervisors and it was well received. So we've kind of put some plans in place for her to provide some additional help with our managers and supervisors. So that's great. Payroll withholdings are up to date. The payroll department is getting ready for T4s. So that's lots of work reconciling that and making sure we're all ready. Property tax collection information is there. As you all know, we held a tax sale on November 9th where 7 of 14 properties were sold. The outstanding balances on these accounts were cleared up in the amount of about $29,000. We are well on our way getting ready for the next tax sale, which should be quite a bit bigger than the November 9th ones. So that's good. And we are planning that for early March. So kind of like the first week of March. There were 38 tax certificates requested and issued in the month of November. So there are properties still selling. And there's a little bit of information there about water utility collections. You will notice the November 30th balance from 2023 is higher than the November 30th balance from 2022, but the bills were a little delayed getting sent out. So that's why there's a bit of a difference. There were 68 disconnection letters sent for anyone with 2 quarters outstanding. And we have started working on the Spring Hill meter installation project with Neptune. Neptune has been in contact with some residents to schedule the installation of the meters. They will not be contacting all residents at the same time. They've kind of done a phased project. I have that the installation of the meters had begun with more than 200 installs and more than 150 additional installations booked. Keep in mind, this was like 3 weeks ago, so we're probably well beyond that number now. And that's my report.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. Any questions for Amy in regards to her report? Seeing none. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your work. 6.5, Protective Services Department monthly report. Mr. Cole.
Back.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under fire services, this report starts at page 53 of the package, Your Worship. Under fire services, I'm pleased to advise that the RFP for the self-contained breathing apparatus has been awarded to Safety Source. And that's the beginning of our standardization efforts to standardize equipment across all fire departments. We're starting on personal protective equipment, as that was deemed to be one of the most important areas of standardization. The callouts for the fire departments remain relatively consistent. Medical and MVA callouts are 62% of all calls, as is typical when discounted for mutual aid. There are the 2-month statistics for November and October. Graphs follow. Under bylaw, still short-staffed, although I believe that is changing in the new year. 15 green bins were delivered, and there were the number of reported cases was down considerably in November, with a total of 5, 3 of which were dangerous or unsightly. And the year-to-date statistics are on page 55, Your Worship. Unless there's any questions, Your Worship.
Thank you.
My report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. Cole in regards to his report? See you none. Thank you, sir. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you, Your Worship.
6.6, Public Works Department Monthly Report, Mr. Walkrest, Director.
Thank you, your worship. You can see there's a lengthy list of all the activities operations staff has been engaged at through the month of November and keeping our community safe and functioning. Big news is we paved Junction Road from north to main. And it's open to traffic generally. We did a little bit of manhole benching today and had it closed for a little while, but substantially complete. Had some nice paint on it till we scraped it off the snow plows. But that's the fact of living in Nova Scotia in the wintertime. Also have Athol Road complete. It's paved in and there'll be some minor landscaping deficiency work to clear up between now and the spring, but both of these very large projects have are substantially complete and servicing the public. So.
Thank you,
happy to
sir.
answer any questions council may have, your worship.
Thank you, Mr. Walkrest. Any questions for Mr. Walkrest in regards to his report? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your work. 6.7, Recreation Month Report, Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, your worship. So the Recreation and Community Services Department continues to be busy throughout the fall, heading into winter. We have a number of walking groups that continue to meet. Communities to Schools has been popular in Parsboro. We have some chair yoga and other programs scheduled throughout the winter. Already looking at planning for the summer 2024, which requires a lot of details and budgeting. So staff are hard at work at that. There's some public skating coming up soon in Parsboro. We've also been fortunate to receive some money to run a sledge hockey program, so para hockey in program in Parsboro, as well as we're applying to do a females girls at bat program in Spring Hill, and that's looking promising as well. And hope to expand that in other areas throughout the county. Lots of event planning, Fundy Shore Winter Carnival, Chili Willy Festival, the volunteer recognition events, senior Christmas dinner, of course, which has passed and was successful, and some holiday skating in Parsboro coming up in on Sunday. Sport Fund, we were awarded $4,500 as well to do some community hockey program in Parsboro. And we will be applying for a grant to expand our equipment loan program, do some replacement of some of those pieces of equipment. We've been meeting with our proponent or our successful proponent for consultants for the active living and recreation strategy. We've had one meeting. They're doing a lot of background research now on with some of our documents and promising practices in the field. A number of parades have been happening throughout the municipality, lots of parades, very festive time of year. The Christmas Craft Fair was a big success, as well as our Christmas parade ourselves that the community center staff put on. And there's an update there with for our facility projects, our outstanding facility projects, with a note that with the commercial kitchen upgrades, we're still looking into the option of purchasing a dishwasher for the community center. And there's some statistics there as well regarding the use of the Dr. Carson Marion Murray Community Center in November. Happy to take any questions, your worship.
Thank you, sir. Obviously, busy time of the year for everyone. Any questions or comments for Mr. McCracken? Councilor Hoteling, please.
Just one question on the community use of schools. How does that program work in Parsboro? I know lots of residents bring that to my attention. Hogwash.
Please, sir. Yep.
Thank you for your question. So it's a longstanding agreement, I guess, between the town of Parsboro and now the municipality of Cumberland with the school. In speaking, there is a demand throughout the county for use of schools. We're aware of that. We've had some preliminary conversations with the Department of Education, I guess the local regional center of education. and their operations team about creating a consistent approach for some of the use of the schools. And so they're actually doing a pilot in the Churro Bible Hill Valley area where they're centralizing bookings of a number of schools, which will allow for an easier and more consistent approach to community schools for municipalities. We're hoping that's successful and that we can bring something here to make it easier for community groups and the municipality ourselves to access schools over time. But it historically, it's been all over the map in terms, I mean, some have been a handshake agreement, some have been formal use agreements, and, you know, and in some cases, it depends on, you know, who's working, either the municipality or who's working at the school or whatever, right? So a lot of different variables. We're trying to bring a more consistent approach for that, but we'll keep council updated on those discussions.
Okay, Councilor Talon, good, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. McCracken? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Appreciate your work and of staff for sure. 6.8 solid waste management reports is in your package for your information. I think Mr. Harrell will go speak to this.
I am, your worship. Thank you. Thanks very much. I won't regurgitate what Brenda Review has written there for us. She pursuant to an MOU with the 3 municipalities, she manages our solid waste education programs. Just to highlight a couple of things with respect to solid waste, you'll note there on page 66, there's a reference to the level of contamination in the recyclable materials that are ending up at the landfill. GFL advises us that it exceeds 20%, and that isn't acceptable going forward and is not sustainable. We need to aim for something much lower, like in the 5 to 10 range. To that end, though, it is GFL's responsibility to run that landfill in accordance with the laws of Nova Scotia and the guidelines that the Department of the Environment, Nova Scotia Environment put in place. And so we have been talking to them along with Miller, our solid waste collection contractor, and we're working with the town of Amherst as well and Miller to put forward an education campaign to let folks know, give some advice on sorting, and to prompt folks to up their game in terms of sorting recyclables. It's not only an education and a campaign of suggestion, though. Beginning in February, GFL will be rejecting loads at the landfill that Miller brings if they aren't meeting an acceptable level of contamination. And so what folks at the curb will likely begin to experience if they aren't sorting their recyclables appropriately is an increased level of rejection stickers. And so I'd encourage people not to think of those as failing grades, but rather an opportunity for improvement. And so hopefully we'll be reaching out with further educational materials, but those materials exist and we encourage people to refer to them now and try to go take that extra step to sort their recyclables. I guess the other thing to report that from that and some other conversations, again, I referred to Brenda and the job that she's doing for the municipalities. Did have the opportunity in the last week or so to meet with Brenda and along with Jason McDonald, the CAO in Amherst, Mr. Wackrass and Aaron Bourgeois, who has similar responsibilities to Justin in Amherst, and we've agreed to meet quarterly to work through those solid waste sorts of issues. We're going to pay a little bit more attention to tracking rejections so that we can target both enforcement and education. So a bit of an ongoing process, but I would just kind of give the heads up to both the members of council and members of the public that current situation has to improve and that there will likely be a few rejections along the way to improvement. And if your materials are rejected at the curb, that's not a signal to leave them there till the next 2 weeks. It's a signal to bring them back in, resort them, and resubmit them for next week. So, or the week following. That's really all I wanted to pass along, although I would take the opportunity while we're on solid waste to just kind of talk again about transfer stations in both Pugwash and now in River Hibbert. we had a, we often talk in metaphorical terms, talk about a dumpster fire. Well, we had a real dumpster fire in River Hibbert. The compost bin that's there as an extra service for folks was set on fire a couple of weeks ago. What we did discover and through that process and through that event is that it's largely filled with unsorted garbage. And so that is equally unacceptable, just like the unsorted or inappropriately sorted recyclables. So like we said in Pugwash, I'll say the same thing about River Hibbert. That's not sustainable. And so to those folks who are using that as a dumping ground for unsorted garbage, it's going to have to stop, or we'll have to take other action to control that. Moving along to the transfer station in Pugwash, while there has been some improvement in terms of the level of vandalism there, it continues. We continue to experience the lock cut off, sometimes the chain thrown away, sometimes the chain stolen, multiple times a month. And we are at wit's end. I have met directly with the RCMP and reported that, passed along any information that I have in terms of when and what and whom, in terms of whom it might be. We really don't have a good handle on that, but we have passed that along to the RCMP. Those facilities are only open when the sign says they're open, and they're not for trespassing during the time that they are closed. So, Your Worship, thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, sir. That brings down to 6.9, the Community Navigator Monthly Report, which is in your package as well. I encourage you to read that. Some great success with that position. Number 7, information items. So 7.1, status of dangerous and unsightly odors. Mr. Cole, I believe twice a year, reports us the status of current situation in Cumberland with comes to unsightly. Mr. Cole, please.
Yes, Your Worship. Section 346 of the Act requires the administrator to present to council twice per year. There is a table on page 70 and 71 of the various orders. There are 10 demolition orders, all of which are 10 demolition orders that have been completed. The 11th is scheduled for tomorrow morning. 13 cleanup orders have been completed. And there was one order that was a bit unique for the removal of an unsafe wood burning appliance in a residence in Spring Hill. And that order was under the immediate danger provisions of the Act, which was a direct order by the administrator. And any questions, I'd be happy to answer, Your Worship.
Okay, sir. Any questions for Mr. Cole regards to his report? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship.
And that, folks, brings us to the end of our agenda. Oh, Councillor Redmond. Question.
Not you, Al. No, you're safe.
Of who?
Of the rejection stickers on
Oh, okay, sure.
recyclables.
Sure thing. That's for you, Mr. Harris. I think it is.
I want to wait for the question.
If they put a rejection sticker on, will it specify why the bag was rejected? Because I did not know until I read that that bubble envelopes are not permitted in recyclables, that's garbage, right? So if I have a bubble envelope in there and not aware of it, how am I gonna know why you rejected it?
So that's a great question. I can't say to you, Councillor Redmond, sitting here today, exactly what the sticker says. But I can say that that's a discussion we had about, how we communicate with folks and what's on the sticker and how we signal it.
Yeah.
What's there. So we're gonna try to do more of a better job in terms of communicating that. So.
Okay, yep,
Okay, Councillor Redmond.
thank you.
Deputy Mayor Gilroy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Now that we're allowed to question the
Yeah.
reporter on this report, electronics drop off, is there an update coming in the future to that? Yeah, now it's not in the Amherst area anymore, that everybody has to take everything to Little Forks, I'm made to understand.
I'll have to get back to you on that, Deputy Mayor. I don't have that information. I do know that you can drop off your electronics in Spring Hill on Junction Road. I don't know about the other.
I think the Enviro Dep will still receive all the electronics, don't they? I dropped some yesterday in Birchwood.
Yeah, I know in Amherst, originally was, the Nova Pet there.
Okay.
And then it moved down to the Bridge Workshop and now that's closed down. So,
Okay, so you're gonna,
so I'm not sure. I've got a number of
Mr.
emails
Harrell.
about people asking what's going on, if we're gonna resurrect the service in the Amherst area or not, so.
thank you, Deputy Mayor Gilroy. So I guess Mr. Harrell will find out for us. Councilor Gould, this turned into a real good question.
Always great,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, your worship. Well, the electronic drop off, it does say right in this report that instead it's no longer a Bridge Workshop. The residents can take it to the Cumberland Central Landfill in Little Fork. So the back to his question is,
Yeah.
we should probably trying to look for a
Yeah.
spot, I would think, locally in the Amherst area where they've always had one.
You know, we'll have a chat with the folks in the town of Amherst. Both of those locations are within the bounds of the town of Amherst itself. So we'll have a chat with the folks in the town of Amherst.
Could be there's a program change, but on behalf of the government or some regulations or whatever, who knows?
Okay, thank you. Councilor Redmond.
Oh, so can I finish?
They're not quite
That
finished.
really
They're not
that
quite
really
finished
wasn't
with
what I
the,
was asking you
yeah,
for.
Okay.
I just was making a point there, but
Start
the
it?
question I had was we were getting with, I think at LED roadway lighting, we were doing a pilot project with some security cameras. Just wondering if the landfill, or the sites that we have in Pugwash and maybe even River Hibbert, if we could possibly use them in them areas.
Peter.
I think Peter McCracken is gonna thankfully handle that.
Yeah.
You need a break, right?
Say by the way.
We've,
Mr. McCracken,
we've
please.
signed a contract with LED roadway for 7 cameras. One of the cameras will be installed so they're, if you recall, they're installed on top of the streetlights.
Yep.
So the last street light going into the Pugwash transfer station from the public access side, there will be a camera installed there to, at least we'll be able to see the comings and goings and see what's going on.
Very good.
In addition to 6 other cameras throughout the municipality.
Okay, Councilor Gould.
Great, thanks.
Okay, Councilor Redmond, please.
I guess where we counselors are not educated on recyclables and garbage, that is just showing you that if we don't have that education, our constituents do not. We've got to really dig in and get that education out to everybody.
And so I just
Agreed,
respond to
yeah.
that and say that those materials are out there. And, you know, there are resources for folks to use. We are going to, you know, try to up the game on the education, but we have the Recollect app now that's really useful. If you actually punch the item in and it'll tell you what to do with it, which is really good. Everybody's got a list on, if you've got the calendar on your fridge, you've also got the sort guide on your fridge. So the materials are out there. So when you're speaking with people, I would refer them to those things. And if you don't have those, Councilor Redmond, let me know and we'll get you set up.
The other thing they're doing, I'm not sure if it's who's doing it, but they are doing that weekly announcement. So where does such an item go, which is really helpful
Announcement on what?
on whether it's through Facebook, their website, or through ours. Facebook, yeah. So they will say, for example, empty paint cans, where do they go? And they'll explain to you where it goes. So that's happening every week. But Deputy Mayor Gilroy.
Perhaps we could get some specialized training for the corporate communications officers to.
That's a great idea. And you use the newsletter.
Yeah.
Actually, actually, you say that in jest, Deputy Mayor, but actually our communications officers are involved in the education effort. So
Nice.
Good stuff.
I wouldn't have known that if you hadn't told me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think we started something new here, or you did. Question period at the end of council. No, I really appreciate it. It's good information. And you know, Councilor Redmond is right. If we don't understand it, how would we expect the constituents to understand it? So thank you very much for that. Thanks, everybody. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We pointing to? No. What? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Anyway, so ask for motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Gilroy, we're adjourned. So folks, just remind to stay back. We're going to go in camera for a few minutes here, please. Thank you. Is that what you were? We off?
So we're off.
Oh, that's